What's going on, you guys? This is Tori Kravitz here today with a special edition Grammys episode of Heavy Conversations here on Knotfest. I'm filling in today for our usual host, Alicia Toot, but I am joined by a powerhouse panel. We have Cori Westbrook and Ryan J. Downey on the team. How are you guys doing today?
Good. What up? What up?
Peachy.
Peachy. Feeling
Peachy.
peachy about the Grammy nominations, are we?
Grammy nominations. Let's talk about the Grammys, shall we, ladies?
Talk about that, shall we? I will say, I mean, it's been pretty amazing to see. We have like Turnstile, 3 Grammy nominations, Ozzy, really taking it home for all of us, but there is a lot to discuss here. Downey, sounds like you have some things to say.
Well, there's a lot to discuss just in so much that, traditionally in our community, the heavy music, alternative punk, hardcore, metalcore, black metal, whatever you want to call our little community that we cover here at Knotfest, traditionally the Grammys are, very frowned upon for historically getting it wrong, going, of course, all the way back to the infamous Jethro Tull upset over Metallica, the very first time they had a metal Grammy. And, over the years, there's definitely been attempts, and I will say this with firsthand knowledge of people that work in the Recording Academy, who I'm consider good friends. There have certainly been people within the organization who have worked very hard to right that ship. And as a result of their efforts, we've gotten nominations for bands like Ghost, like we have again this year, and Turnstile, is definitely a result of that. Having said that, we still can't seem to avoid things like, Tenacious D winning a metal Grammy. And, or like, a live version of a 40-year-old Iron Maiden song getting nominated. Up the irons, I love Maiden, but I think certainly the Grammys do best when it's recognizing current and relevant artists. Not to say that Iron Maiden isn't current and relevant, because they're still massive in putting out new music, but just that it seems like a lot of it is name recognition and names that are recognized by folks who don't necessarily have much of a grasp on what's happening on the ground in the genre. I will say, again, is more sort of a positive in the Grammys direction. There are different screening committees that have been convened over the years with varying degrees of success, where they do get input from, label staffers, journalists, managers, radio people, promoters, different people who actually work on the ground in this genre and understand who these bands are, and really push to, get the quote unquote right things through. But still, nevertheless, even when they get it right, there's problems. Like the last time I actually attended the Grammys was when Metallica played with Lady Gaga, and Laverne Cox, who's a great actress, who I'm a fan of her work, when she introduced Metallica, both in the rehearsal and during the performance, she forgot to say Metallica. I'm pretty sure Metallica was on the teleprompter, and she read the introduction both times as though she were just introducing Lady Gaga. And then, of course, Hetfield's mic isn't working, so it's like, even when we lose, or even when we win, we lose, rather. Add to that Megadeth getting nominated for like a dozen Grammys before they ever won. They finally win, and as they're walking up to accept, the house band is playing Master of Puppets. So, these little oversights, mistakes, slights, I do have some sympathy and empathy for the folks who I know, like any big organization, as somebody who used to work at MTV, a lot of these big organizations have people who are of our ilk and kind and have the right intentions and are fighting to make the right things happen, and they get these small victories, but the overall sentiment still continues to be like, they don't really care. Much respect to Avenged Sevenfold, who one year just didn't go because the category they were nominated in wasn't televised. And they were like, why would we even go if it's not going to be televised? On the other side of that coin, having talked to people at the Recording Academy, and when you start getting into conversations like, well, maybe there should be, this subgenre of metal, or maybe there should be this. And then the people at the Recording Academy tell me, hey, the number one complaint about the Grammys from everyone, all genres, is that the show is too long and there's too many categories. So if you think the solution is introducing more subcategories into your particular genre, that's actually just going to make it worse. And that's going to result in a bunch more categories that aren't getting televised. So, and Cori, I'm very anxious to hear what you think about the Grammys and metal in general, and this year's nominations, which we should say for anybody watching who hasn't bothered to look or doesn't know where to look. Ghost, Call Me Little Sunshine, Megadeth, Will Be Back, Muse, Killer Be Killed, Ozzy Osbourne featuring The Dark Lord of the Rift, Tony Iommi, Degradation Blues, and Turnstile Blackout. Those are all the best metal performance nominees. In the best rock performance, we have some stuff that maybe overlaps into our genre, including Ozzy featuring Jeff Beck, Patient Number 9, another Turnstile song, Holiday, and Idols, who are, maybe adjacent. And, it's interesting to look at this and go, okay, you got your veterans, you've got your Ozzy, you've got your Megadeth, you've got Ghost, who's, had a huge record this year, particularly in terms of physical sales, at a time when.
And literally one of the catchiest songs ever was Spillways. Sorry to interrupt, but that is like
catchy song.
The catchiest song that I've ever heard in my life. You just want to dance.
And having said that, is Ghost by definition even metal? Because this is something that would come up in the Grammy screening committees about the songs themselves. Is this particular song that's nominated a metal song? Does it belong in rock? If there's a hard rock category, would it go there? And these are all the conversations the thankless conversations that those folks have to have and battle out all the time. So
I've noticed, not to interrupt, but that has been quite a divisive conversation online since the nominations were announced, was Muse being in the metal category. Yeah. Thought that was quite an interesting one. What do you guys think of that being in the
Turnstile being in the metal category?
Right. And Machine Gun Kelly ending up in the rock category. These are all interesting ones where it's like, it's tough with these subgenres. How are we feeling about that?
Tori, what do you think about all this?
I think metal is whatever the fuck we want it to be. I don't know if you guys want me to go on my rant about the Grammys or talk about this just yet. But I do have a rant about the Grammys, that it comes up every single year because it's something that grinds my gears every single year. And that I see so many posts, be it on Twitter from fans, from industry professionals, articles in, different media websites saying the Grammys are snubbing metal again. Oh, look, they didn't even include metal in the actual metal category because these aren't real metal bands. And I would argue that the Grammys aren't snubbing us. And this is going to probably get me a lot of shit. The Grammys are giving us exactly what we ask for, because 364 days out of the year, I hear the Grammys don't matter. The Grammys are irrelevant. Fuck the Grammys. I even heard that when somebody started the petition to honor Trevor during the In Memoriam and everything like that. Oh, fuck the Grammys. If somebody was standing adjacent to your friend group saying, oh, fuck those guys are irrelevant, those guys don't matter, are you going to then turn around and be like, oh, you know who's really awesome? Phil, that guy that keeps telling me to fuck off. He's the best guy of the year. No. In order for us to be part of the mainstream, part of the Grammys, we actually have to be part of it. We can't sit there and pretend like we don't care about it, like it doesn't matter, it's stupid, all of that, and then be like shocked Pikachu when we're snubbed. And yes, there are a lot of heavy performances that should have made it that didn't, in my opinion. But also on the same side, how many hardcore metalheads are involved in the Recording Academy? How many people are out there actually signing up? How many people, like you just pointed out, Avenged Sevenfold didn't even attend because their category wasn't being televised. How can we expect to be seen as a legitimate genre and have more say and more sway in all of this if we don't even attend, if we constantly act like it doesn't matter? So, and I know, like, I'm going to get shit for this because it's not the common opinion that a lot of metalheads have it, but it's true. They're giving us exactly what we say we want. We don't want to be part of your club. They're not going to come chasing after us like, oh, please be part of our club. We want the metalheads. They're going to be like, no, you guys have said we suck for decades. You said we suck since, the 80s. Why would we want you around if you're going to be like that? And that kind of toxicity, it only hurts us in the long run. I'm sorry, guys, but the only toxicity I want is my System of a Down album. Get the rest out. Like, it's not going to help us in any way. And I want to see metal be more successful in these institutions because, like it or not, they do matter. And it does get our genre more exposure, and it does bring more people to the genre as a whole, bring us more fans, bring those bands more money so they can continue to perform, to continue to make their albums. Because without the fans, without all that recognition, the genre is going to continue to stagnate, and I do not want to see that happen. I love what we do. I love the music that gets made. Like, I don't want to see it ever go away. But if we continue to act like these things don't matter to us 364 days out of the year, except for the day when things are actually announced and we can act like we've been slighted, then it's not gonna, we're never gonna see what it used to be when metal was at its height, at its peaks. And I want to see that again. So I want to see more metalheads involved. I want to see more metal bands attend, even if they aren't nominated. Just attend, act like it matters. Get involved with the Recording Academy, be part of those discussions, push those heavier bands, and stop acting like it doesn't matter if it does matter to you.
I mean, slow clap for you, Cori. And I must honestly agree with you. I know that this may be an unpopular opinion, but I'm with you. And I think it's a conversation we've had just in regards to metal being in the mainstream in general. We were saying it in terms of the Meta Festival. We were saying it's great that Ozzy's doing that, because in order for us to be ahead of the curve and continue being a part of the mainstream, we have to participate and be with the other genres in terms of those things. So you're right. It's like, I was kind of prepared to go into this conversation saying the Grammys are out of touch. They don't understand metal anymore. But at the same side of the other side of the coin, it's just we don't seem to care either. We're not valuing the Grammys either. We're not interested in the conversation. I mean, there's been talk of Turnstile being nominated since that album came out. And I'm sure that has been a huge push for the band since the get-go. So they were involved. They were excited. They were a part of the conversation. So it's sort of, the proof is right there, isn't it?
Exactly. They're never going to understand our genre. They're never going to embrace our genre unless we show them. You can't force somebody to be passionate about what you do. Your passion has to be infectious. It has to be contagious. And the only way it's contagious is if you're around other people sharing what you're passionate about, like what we do here on Knotfest every day. Like, I am that geek in the group that's like, here, listen I will find the metal for you to get you into this genre. And because, like I always say, if you don't like one kind of metal, there's how many other kinds to choose from. You can, there is what I had a 75-year-old man make a joke. He's like, well, I only listen to big band and opera. And I'm like, Diablo Swing Orchestra, I got you. We have to be able to freaking have those conversations and spread our love in a positive way, not in a negative, like, oh, you can only be part of our club if you're cool enough. No, just come be part of our freaking club. It does not help us when we try to be like super edgy and exclusive. No, come on, come hang out with us. It's cool over here. I promise. The pushing and shoving, we don't actually get hurt. It's fine. Just come on.
I'm of two minds about it, because I understand the contrarian, rebellious spirit, right? Of I don't want to go to a party that I'm not invited to, and they don't need to understand what we're about, and the idea that to draw a parallel to another subculture, juggalos, when the juggalos marched on Washington to get like respectability from the mainstream and to prevent juggalos from being profiled by police as gang members. There was a segment of them who didn't go because they were like, we don't want mainstream respect. We like that people feel threatened by us and think that we're crazy and nuts. We're not going to go march for, people to think we're cool. So on the flip side of that, I'm very much with you that you can't or shouldn't really complain and bellyache about it if you aren't going to participate whatsoever. And when there have been attempts over the years to create our own sort of parallel universe, right, with the Revolver Golden Gods Awards, the AP Music Awards, and the one year that there was a Loudwire Awards, those are all events that I certainly attended all of them. The AP Awards I worked at a few years in a row. Those are thankless jobs also. So I also have some sympathy for the Recording Academy, as I mentioned, and the Grammys themselves, in that you're not going to please everybody. And in an effort to please everyone, you're most likely going to please no one. And even with those examples of Golden Gods and APMAs and Loudwire Awards, as much as they were celebrations of our culture, as much as they were fun to be had, and there were great performances, and there were lots of people getting to see each other, sometimes for the first time in person, and all that was great. There were still plenty of people online that were like, why do we even need an award show? And this is stupid. And why is this band nominated? Why did this band win? Why did this terrible band play when you could have had this band play? And so on and so on, right? So the last point that I'll make is, and again, this kind of comes from experience, I suppose. I know growing up, especially, and feeling like I was on the outside looking in at all of these organizations and entities, that the decision makers, the gatekeepers, it all seems very monolithic. And it was, once upon a time, it was like MTV, it's this, and it's like the Grammys, they're this, and radio is this. And something that I am constantly reminded of more and more as the years go by, it's just people. It's just people like working at these places, right? Like there's, I remember Glenn Danzig at one point saying that, he wouldn't do an interview with this publication or that publication because when the Misfits were around, they didn't care. And it's like, yeah, but dude, the editor that's calling you to do the interview is like 30. You know what I mean? Like they weren't there choosing not to cover the Misfits. They grew up loving the Misfits. They have Misfits tattoos. They would love to talk to you. Like it's changed. Like there's people in there. And so I do know that there are metal people in the Recording Academy. I do know that attempts have been made the last 10 years, especially, to bring more people from the metal industry on board to come in and to help make decisions and to help choose who gets nominated and to vote and participate and all of those great things. But at the end of the day, you're still only going to have so many nominees, and you're always going to have what feel like glaring omissions, and you're always going to have, well, why is this here and that's not there? So I really don't know what the answer is, other than it's always fun to talk about this time of year.
Yeah, I do think it seems the consensus between all of us is either be in the club or get out of the club, but you gotta pick one. You gotta pick one and be happy with your decision.
Exactly. If like you brought up the contrarian view of wanting to be on the outside, that's fine. If that's what we want, that's fine. But then we can't say we're snubbed.
Then go be on the outside and do your outside thing.
Exactly. Just do your own thing.
Go
create your own award show or not. Like it doesn't matter. But at the same time, you can't fuck the Grammys. Wait, why don't they want to hang out with me? Well, you told them to fuck off.
And for as much shit talking as there is on the Grammys and the Recording Academy, they have Music Cares, which is hugely awesome. And I know, I can give you one specific example in our scene. My buddy Ben, who plays drums in Converge, had injured his elbow, and that dude's in like 5 different bands. Messed up elbow for a drummer means you can't tour, you can't make a living. I put him in touch with people at Music Cares, and they helped him with his medical bills. And this is in America, where we all know what healthcare is like in America. The Grammy Museum in downtown LA, if you're ever visiting Los Angeles, it's awesome. And they have cool events that have also involved, Avenged Sevenfold did an unplugged show there. They do a lot of great things for preservation, for history. There are cool things to the organization for all of the backroom dealing and scandals and omissions and all the things there are to complain about. It's like any big, huge group of people. It's got its blessings and its curses.
Absolutely. And I would like to move along here to continue talking about the nominations a little bit, getting your thoughts on at least the people who are within the category and perhaps some who should have been there and weren't. So do you think there were any artists or releases that were snubbed this year that you wish what you would have seen there? Any particular names that you were hoping to see? Cori, let's start with you.
What was the cutoff date?
I believe it was...
It was September 30th, wasn't it?
September, I believe.
Okay. Then the album that I want to see better be in next year's, because we all know what album that is. It's on my wall right now. Lorna Shore, but it came out after the cutoff. Other than that, I actually would have liked to see Motionless in White. I think that album was actually really good, and it's not like they don't have name recognition. I think they could have had a nomination on their end too. I know that's another one that would probably get me a little bit of flack, but if name recognition is the name of the game, they should have been included. But I do agree that Turnstile, definitely, I think they've earned it. I think that they have earned it. They've had a hell of a year.
Yeah, agreed. What about you?
Yeah, I like seeing Turnstile on there. I think Ghost, Turnstile, Motionless, Ice Nine Kills, there's a handful of bands, Dance Gavin Dance, Spirit
Yeah, that
Box.
one's
I
debatable.
would have loved to have seen
Spirit Box is good though.
Spirit Box.
I was hearing a lot of talk of, you know, the speculation that Spirit Box would have been nominated. So I was a bit, I mean, surprised is surprised because it's metal genre. So who's to say? But you know,
Yeah,
that would have
and
been
I
cool.
think next year Polyphia. But those are all bands that I think are having a moment right now in terms of like, regardless of how long they've been around, whether they're on their first album, whether they're on their fifth album, you know, just tracking sales and social media and attendance figures and all of that stuff, as I like to do. By all of those metrics, each of those bands is having a moment. So I think Turnstile getting recognized and Ghost getting recognized again this year on such a big record is cool. Megadeth has been nominated so many times. They didn't win until Dystopia. So I love, you know, the years-long wait between Dystopia and The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. I love seeing something from that nominated, just as, you know, that's the band that got me into metal. It's one of my favorite bands of all time. They're still making great music, putting on great shows, and certainly always deserved when you're going to have a veteran band in there. And of course, you know, Ozzy, if we're gonna have if we're gonna give a slot away to Ozzy that could have gone to a younger band, God, I love that it's a song with Tony Iommi, because I love, if it wins, I love the idea of Ozzy and Tony Iommi taking the stage together to accept it, because that's just always cool.
100%. Yeah, and so I did actually see some interesting articles that come around every year with the Grammys. Is you know, we see who's nominated, and it's like, who do we want to win versus who do we think will actually win? So I would love to hear your predictions on who you think is actually going to take the cake on some of these awards. Ryan, let's start with you.
I think Ozzy will win based on name recognition, based on his advanced age, based on the fact that Black Sabbath is arguably the first metal band of all time, and given the star power of having Ozzy and Sharon on the red carpet at the Grammys, and the name recognition, and then, as I mentioned, the idea of the two of them taking the stage together if Tony's also able to attend and they're able to take that award. As far as who should win, you know, or who I'd like to see win, I would say Megadeth, because I love Megadeth so much. But honestly, I got to give it to Turnstile because they are having a moment, and Megadeth has been nominated over a dozen times and did finally win on their last album. So it would be cool to see Turnstile rewarded for being, you know, a band that everyone in our genre and slightly outside of, I mean, people that I know who listened to heavy music 20 plus years ago and, you know, grew up to be like indie rock hipsters or whatever. Those were the people that were texting me over the last year going like, dude, have you heard this Turnstile band? That's like the band that like got them back in, you know, so there's something to be said for that. And I think it should be recognized.
Absolutely. What about you, Cori?
I agree. I do think Ozzy will take home the awards, just because it's Ozzy. Like, you know, there's not really much more to say. Is Ozzy, but I do want to see
controversial win too. No one's going to be like, Ozzy shouldn't win.
Yeah, right. Like, what are you going to say bad about Ozzy? Because whoever says anything bad about Ozzy, point them out. I will fight them on that red carpet. Exactly. Yeah, content right there for Knotfest. Me fighting people, shit talking Ozzy on the red carpet at the Grammys. Yeah. No, but I also do agree. I would love to see Turnstile win, just because I want to see younger fans being more engaged with the metal genre. And I think a win from a younger band like Turnstile versus Ozzy would engage a younger audience. I mean, there's not a lot of 20-year-olds. I mean, there probably are a lot of 20-year-olds listening to Ozzy because it's Ozzy, but at the same time, that's not the same kind of excitement that they're going to have for a bit like they will for a band like Turnstile. So I would love to get that younger engagement with the overall genre, seeing a band that is doing so well that does bring a younger crowd to our scene when it would be wonderful. But I do think it's going to be Ozzy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely with you guys. We're 3 for 3 here. It's like Ozzy. But I also am rooting for Turnstile. I mean, I was hoping maybe just 1 nomination for them. So to see them with 3 nominations was just, I know it absolutely floored the internet yesterday. And to build off of what you're saying, Cori, I think it's also a really, you know what, it might even be a glimmer of hope for the metal bands out there of like, wow, okay, so Turnstile, this band beloved in the scene, has broken out and now winning Grammys. That could even change the way that we see the Grammys in the future and maybe give us a little bit of like what you're saying, just a little more love for the mainstream and a little more love towards the Grammys in the future. Cause it's like, okay, we are being recognized beyond just the mainstream mega acts in metal. This band that's on the come up is being recognized by the big guys now. So I would like to believe that it may give these up and coming bands a glimmer of hope that there's still an opportunity to succeed big time. you know.
And you did mention there are 3 nominations, so maybe they win in a different category.
Yeah,
exactly. We could have both. We could have Ozzy and Turnstile win.
Yeah.
That would be a great scenario, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. This has been another episode of Heavy Conversation. So thank you to Ryan J. Downey, Cori Westbrook for being a wonderful panel to talk all things Grammys. Make sure you tune in here, same place next week for another episode of Heavy Conversations. I've been Tori Kravitz, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.